Bloomers in the Garden. I'm Len Schroeder.
And I'm Julio Zamora.
First up on today's show, a listener from Brooklyn, New York, texted the Bloomers in the Garden hotline and asked us about trimming azaleas. Hear how it's done in our first segment.
Doris called the Bloomers in the Garden hotline and asked a question about crepe myrtle. Listen in during our second segment.
One of the longest-lasting, colorful fall plants are the ornamental kale and cabbage. Listen in how long they last and how to tell the difference in our third segment.
You can design and install your own landscape. Len and I will share some tricks of the trade to make your landscape look like a pro in our fourth segment.
So why is fall for planting? We'll explain the benefits of landscaping in the fall during our final segment.
So stay tuned and we'll be right back in the garden right after these messages. Bloomers in the Garden is brought to you each week by Bloomers Home and Garden Center. Bloomers is an award-winning garden center just 20 minutes from Philadelphia. Bloomers has been providing expert advice turning brown thumbs green for over 30 years. At Bloomers, we want you to ask us every question, even if you think it's silly. We share information in a friendly, non-judgmental way that is meant to teach and spread the joy of gardening. Visit Bloomers Home and Garden Center in Washington Township, Gloucester County. For directions, go to bloomers.com, and we'll see you in the garden.
Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden.
Fertilome's Triple Action contains 70% neem oil and 0.25% pyrethrins as a concentrate and ready to spray. It is an insecticide, fungicide, and miticide labeled to use on vegetables, fruits, nuts, herbs, spices, and ornamentals. This organic OMRI-listed product controls a wide variety of insect pests and diseases, including aphids, scale, spider mites, whiteflies, rust, leaf spot, and powdery mildew. This insecticide is an all-in-one bottle that will cure just about any problem you may run into throughout the year. Fertilome's Triple Action has been helping gardeners across the country for years. Best to apply in late evening and early morning hours. Mix 1 ounce, which is equivalent to 2 tablespoons in a gallon of water. The best part is Triple Action may be used up to the day of harvest. So the next time you are visiting your favorite garden center, ask for Fertilome's Triple Action and expect to have the best-looking plants in the neighborhood.
You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or see and hear us by subscribing to Bloomers YouTube channel. Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley every Saturday. First, wake up with us at 6 a.m. on WNWR The Word at 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. Tune in at 8 a.m. to Bloomers in the Garden Radio on Talk 860 WWDB. A rebroadcast of Bloomers in the Garden Radio is played each Saturday evening at 5 p.m. on The Word, 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard throughout the New York Tri-State Area on Classic Oldies, 1250 AM WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Brooklyn Barbara texted us on the Bloomers in the Garden hotline and asked us the following question.
Hi, I would like to know if it's too late to trim azaleas. I don't see the buds on it, and the last time it was trimmed was in early summer after blooming.
Julio, you talked to Barbara.
Yes, I did.
Right. And that she did it right after they bloomed.
Mm-hmm.
And we basically said, you don't need to do anything.
That's it.
No more trimming.
No
and
more.
What was she saying, Hul? Was it just a little bit out of, it's just big or what?
Yeah, it was just a little, it grew and she wanted to bring it down a little bit.
Yeah. So next time she can go a little bit deeper. And she said she had them in containers, right?
Yes, she had them in containers.
That's
She was in Brooklyn.
Yeah. I mean, hey, a tree grows in Brooklyn. That was a famous book. But where that if they are in containers, they're fine to trim. Just if you want them to be tighter and not as big, because who knows, they may be blowing over or something. They may be top heavy.
Could be.
Cut them back after they're done blooming. You don't just cut off the green, but you can go deeper.
Deeper off, yeah.
All right. So I don't know. Explain. This is a test. I know you all love when I give Julio a test. Most of the time he gets them all right. When we talk about old wood and new wood, what does that mean?
Old wood is previous year, which is overwintering growth from that previous year that you have.
Okay.
Right.
New wood?
New wood is the latest growth, which is now.
Okay. So softwood.
Mm-hmm.
Most azaleas bloom on their old wood. Mm-hmm. And that means that you can trim them right after they bloom, but you have to leave them alone because you will cut off all of the blooms like we spoke about. Now, if she were to shear them now, and that we always talk about the billable hours for landscapers, they come and shear everything. You know, it's like grass is slowing down, and so they want something to do, so they shear everything.
Boom.
I had cleanup done by a friend of mine's landscape company, and the guys came in. They sheared all of my hydrangeas before they bloomed.
Oh,
right?
isn't that wonderful?
All of the flowers were knocked off.
Oh,
so I didn't have any hydrangeas that bloom. And we hear that all the time. And that's
right.
where that old, new, wood new comes in. So the hydrangeas, even though there are reblooming types, that first bloom on their old wood is always better. And I guess it's fuller than that secondary bloom on the new wood, on those newer varieties. And the variety that they cut back was a variety that only blooms on its old wood. Now, most of the azaleas out there, they are older varieties. Hino Crimson, Hershey Red, Delaware Valley White. All of those are old wood bloomers. So again, it should be, I guess we have to say that there is the newer varieties, Encore, Proven Winners has Bloomathon, that these are repeat bloomers, but they never bloom like they did in that first bloom. Right. That bloom, so in the spring. So if you cut those back as well and just kind of let them lie, there'll be a better bloom in the spring. Technically, because they do bloom on new wood later on, these varieties, again, the Encore and the Proven Winner Bloomathon, they'll send out some flowers, but it's not going to be the same show that you would get in, say, April, May. So shear your azaleas right after they bloom and live with the consequences. Right? That's about it. Yeah. All right, we'll be back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden.
Are you looking forward to a spring of vibrancy while using the best organically approved growing media for your annuals and vegetables? Coast of Maine's Sprout Island Organic Seed Starter has been created to set a diverse culture ideal for germinating seeds and root cuttings. Created using the best ancient composting techniques and new age mixing devices, Sprout Island Organic Seed Starter gently combines kelp meal, worm castings, mycorrhiza, perlite, and sustainably harvested peat moss, establishing the most desirable setting to enhance new plant growth. Coast of Maine's Sprout Island Organic Seed Starter is available at these local retailers, or visit www.coastofmaine.com to locate one near you. Pickering Valley Feed and Farm, Exton, Pennsylvania. Ashcombe Farm and Greenhouses, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Tony's Farm and Garden, Windsor, New Jersey.
James, won't you turn that old iPad off and come on over here and listen to the radio with Pop-Pop? I'm sure we can find something to listen to.
Okay.
Let me see here.
It's going to be another scorcher out here today. It's those doggone dog days of summer with temperatures topping out in the high 90s.
God dog it, made me drop my doggone coffee.
Pop, what's the dog day?
Well, James, it's funny that you asked that question because every dog has its day. And the dog days of summer is a magical time at Bloomer's Home and Garden Center, where they've got the nerve, the unmitigated gall. You'll learn about those words a little bit later on, to slash prices all over the place. I'm talking crazy numbers here. $50 off all Ludgood Japanese maple trees. 50% off all shade trees, camellias and oak leaf hydrangeas. Even all their fruit trees are 50% off. That's not all their nursery has to offer. 75% off French lilac hybrids. 75% off snow sprite cedar, tricolor willow, and enoki cypress. Meet petite knockout roses for $15.99 each or 2 for $25 to wrap up the dog days of summer with these pawsome blowout deals. You see what I did there?
I guess at Bloomer's, Pop, you're barking up the right tree.
You've been hanging around your pawpaw for too long. You're starting to sound just like me. Yeah, I see what you did there, young man.
For more information, check out bloomers.com. You've got to see this place.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. We received another question on the Bloomers in the Garden hotline about pruning. Doris called and asked about crepe myrtle. Listen to her call.
Hi, my question is about my crepe myrtle. It's been in about 3 years. I'm wondering when the best time to prune it, and I don't want it to get real tall. So I appreciate that information. My name is Doris Murphy, and thank you. I enjoy your program.
Well, thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody out there. Do you remember what we talked about old wood and new wood in our first segment? Mm-hmm. Well, do you?
Yes.
Well, thank you, Julio. Because crepe myrtles bloom on their, say it, Julio.
New wood.
New wood.
Right
new
now.
wood. What the heck does that mean about pruning? It means that this is one of the plants that you prune in late winter, that you cut it back, and that one of the things about pruning is that it gives you the chance to clean up some, I guess, growing mistakes that the plant might be having. Like, for instance, crepe myrtle are like a shrubby tree, and that what they require is for you to make sure that you don't see any, say, trunks that are crossing and rubbing with winter winds, or that there are too many trunks coming up, that you don't want them to compete with themselves. So you've got to prune out some of those trunks. Okay, and you want to prune it all the way down to the soil line. Okay, that is very important.
That is.
Air circulation. It's just a better way to take care of your crepe myrtle. You're going to get more blooms as well.
Oh yeah, sure.
Then how about thinning out the main stems, but also making sure that there's no suckers. Yeah. Nobody likes a sucker.
Suckers.
So, again, you're going to make sure you get that all the way down to the ground. Now, trimming the top, you're going to cut it back. You could go as far as a third, but I've seen some real hatchet jobs on crepe myrtles where they all of a sudden are cut. You know, say a 20-foot crepe myrtle is cut down to like 6 feet.
Oh, my gosh.
And it looks like, you know,
what happened?
A horror movie. But again, you want to probably cut it back a third. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't, and again, don't try to do this now. Wait until it is completely dormant, and that, honestly, that's best to be done in, say, March. The beginning of March. It's still going to be cold, so you're going to be wearing a jacket, but you're going to have something to do to get out there in the garden, you know?
Nice.
You may not be able to plant too much in the vegetable garden, but you can certainly take care of a lot of different plants by winter prunings, and this is one. Julio, do you have a crepe myrtle at your place?
No, but I've taken care of one at the church.
Okay.
Yeah, and like you said, you got to start thinning from the bottom, because it gets pretty tight in there, and there's hardly any airflow going, by the plant.
Right, and what happens is like when the trunks are rubbing against each other, they're causing damage to the bark, which means that insects can get in there, and then all of a sudden you got a borer problem and disease. So you want to make it so that there's airflow. If you want to try to make it look like a bush, like we have some crepe myrtles at Bloomers that are growing along our back fence, and that they need to be trimmed up, and that when we tackle this in February, March, we're going to have to really clean them up so that they recapture looking like a tree rather than looking like a shrub.
Right.
And that's what you want to do. And keep that in mind. You want to, it's important to trim any branches that are a safety hazard. Like I know that I've seen some that where they kind of, they're just like in the way, like somebody walking, in the driveway or walking down the street, they're clunking their heads on these crepe myrtles that are overgrown. If you need to remove something like that, go ahead. You don't have to wait until March. It's like, sorry, those guys on the radio said that we have to wait until March.
Yeah.
No, you can take care of emergency stuff like that. But again, look for any dead branches when you're in there. And again, it's important because now when they come into bloom during the summer, you will have a heavier blossom than if you did nothing. So keep that in mind.
That's key.
Also that there's about seed pods. Like people see the seed pods after they flower. It's not necessary to cut them off. You don't have to do any trimming or anything else. It's, some people say, oh, if those seed pods are left on, they're not going to flower. Not true. It'll bloom just fine. But it's just, again, a heavy cluster of seed pods. Some plants, it'll wear them down, but not, I haven't seen that in New Jersey.
Yeah.
It depends on if we get a real heavy snow, but that's not going to happen. But again, you can say, all right, I'm going to take off the seed pods early. Like say you have an earlier variety that flowers and you get seed pods and it's midsummer, you can go ahead and cut them back and you may get a second flush of blooms in September. So it's like deadheading, but it's not necessary. It's not necessary because you know that you're going to cut them back in February, March, and do your winter pruning, and then they bloom on their new
wood.
Bloom on new wood. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for this section. We've got coming up on ornamental kale and cabbage.
Ooh.
That's it. We'll be right back in the garden right after this.
Are you looking to reach an audience of over 12 million residents in the Philadelphia, Delaware Valley, and New York City Tri-State? Then consider becoming a broadcast sponsorship partner for Bloomers in the Garden. Every week on Bloomers in the Garden Radio, your products become associated with the authority in everything lawn, landscape, and garden. For more information on the Bloomers in the Garden Partnership Program, feel free to call the hotline 609-685-1880 or check out the radio tab at bloomers.com.
Dreaming of a gorgeous garden? Give your azaleas, rhododendron, blueberries, and evergreens a powerful boost with their #1 acid-loving plant food, Espoma Organic Hollytone. Hollytone is a perfect blend of natural, long-lasting ingredients that nourish plants for stronger roots, faster growth, and bountiful blooms. Plus, it's easy to use and safe for people, pets, and planet. Visit espoma.com for a retailer near you and helpful gardening tips. Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929.
If you're like me, then you absolutely love birds. The Bird Sanctuary at Bloomer's Home and Garden Center has you covered. They're dedicated to the care and feeding of wild birds of all sorts. Want to bring more birds to your yard? Then you got to see this place. Bloomers has a huge flock of feeders, birdhouses, birdseed, and much, much more. Want to feed the birds and not the squirrels? They have this absolutely cool bronze bird feeder that will drive those sneaky squirrels nuts. They'll be moving to the next door neighbor in no time. OMG. Bloomers have these absolutely adorable birdhouses that will turn your yard into the perfect bird B&B. They carry all types of wild bird seed, suet, seed cakes, and mealworms. Bloomer stocks Lyric, Coles, CNS, Pine Tree Farms, and much, much more that will keep those beautiful birds coming back for more. Bloomer's Home and Garden Center is located in Washington Township in Gloucester County. For more information and directions, check them out on the web at bloomers.com. Bloomer's Home and Garden Center, you got to see this place.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. I'm Len, he's Julio, and Sam and Aaron are here too. Aaron, Sam and Dave?
Yep.
Like Sam and Dave? I like Sam and Dave. Anyway, ornamental cabbage and kale, the longest lasting of all of the fall plants. Longer than mums, asters, celosia, because they can take it cold.
Yeah,
they can take it whole. But Julio, here you go.
Okay.
Which one is a kale and which one is a cabbage?
Mm-hmm. The ornamental cabbage that has smooth leaves, cup shape with a colorful center.
That's it. That's it. So when you go and you select them, I think the kale has, it's really like a Japanese maple. Think of it this like that. Well, this is for horticulture people anyway. That where it's a dissectum weeping Japanese maple have that as real frilly, lacy leaf, and that's kind of like how the kale are. Same type of shape. It does form a similar head, but again, it's a different texture. And we're going to talk about color, texture, and form in the next segment. But the key is you can get them now, and they're available usually at your local garden center will have 4-inch pots. So you can now create a fall planter.
Oh, that's even better.
And I have had ornamental cabbage last into January, into January. And it's got to be a really, really consistent, cold, freezing weather, 20 degrees for several days in a row for it to affect the kale or cabbage. And it's pretty amazing. They're tough.
They're tough, like pansies.
Well, they're tougher than pansies, actually, but they don't come back in the spring.
That's it.
So ornamental kale have some differences, okay? That, like I said, they have the more of a ruffled texture.
Yeah, it's cool.
And they have different varieties where there's there's a peacock variety that if you go to your local garden center, ask if they have the peacock variety because that is extra frilly. Okay. And that there's Yokohama kale that
Japanese.
That is unique because it gets tall. It's not where it stays in like a head, but it can get to be 18 inches tall.
Wow, that's pretty good.
And it looks, when planted alone, it can stand alone and look great. But it also, in that mixed container,
look great,
it can look awesome. Because
put the pansies around it. They'd be 2 tough plants.
They'll compete. They'll have a fight. See who wins. Anyway, so if you take, all right, let's take off of that, Julio. So if you're going to make a container, like a mixed container for fall, what are you going to put in your mixed container?
Yeah, I like the whole frilly kind of.
The frilly. Yeah. What else are you going to put in it?
I tell you. To go with that around it, I like the pansies because it gives it color.
Okay. What about something taller in the middle?
Taller in the middle?
Not Dracaena spikes.
No, they're gone.
They're good. Please, no more Dracaena spikes.
Yeah, please.
Last week we had Bobby and put a daylily.
Yeah, daylily. Yeah.
Perennial comes back every year and looks like a Dracaena spike. You could do that.
Yeah, or you could use some grass, small grass like a hemlin, a dwarf hemlin.
Yep. That millet.
Yeah, another one.
Millet is a great plant. It gets this fuzzy. It looks like You know what a punk is?
No.
You don't know what
I know punk rock. I know what punk rock is.
I would have liked to see you back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Slam dancing.
That's right.
Julio Zamora slam dancing at the club. Anyway, what it forms it actually looks almost fuzzy, and that birds eat the millet. Like you've gone into your bird like Bloomers sells millet in its bird seed, and that the birds will come and feed off of it. And it has great burgundy color leaves. And there's another variety that is called jade. And you can imagine what color that is. It's like a chartreuse green.
That's pretty. Yeah, really
so
pretty.
you take that, and that could be your center tall piece where you have now your kale, you have pansies, and I would put a mum in.
Oh, yeah.
And pick a mum that's really either just cracking color or even green. And that would do a lot better. That would do a lot better because it'll last longer. Because if you put it in too soon, it doesn't last. It'll, like we talked about it a few weeks back, and they bloom for about 6 to 8 weeks and can take a mild frost, and that you'll still have that color. So it'll certainly, getting up to Thanksgiving, this will still be viable. Some of the plants may be, set back a little, but they all are. They all are ones that can take the freeze. Yeah. After it's done, the only plant that we talked about that would die is going to be the kale, and is also going to be you have the kale, the millet, but the rest come back. The mums come back, right? The pansies come back. So you can either just leave them right there, which is not a bad idea. And then your mums can be transplanted someplace else, but leave the pansies and plant something else with it. Right. What would you put in if say you do this fall pot, right?
Yeah.
And you have the pansies left, and you transplanted the other things.
Right.
What would you put in that pot? Say early spring when the pansies are blooming. I got an idea.
You do?
I do.
What's that?
Before you put in the other plants, what I want you to do is put in a dozen tulips.
Yep, the bulbs.
So that what you'll have is the tulips will be underneath everything that you planted. And then when you take these other things out, the tulips in spring will come up and be mixed with your pansies. Huh?
Succession planting. Is that what they call it?
That's what they call it. That's what they call it. If you've got questions on what you want to do with your fall combos or any of the fall plantings, please call our hotline.
Get creative,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We'll answer any question you have at 609-685-1880. We'll be right back right after this message. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Fertilome Succulent Potting Mix with EcoPeat is the perfect ready-to-use potting mix for all your succulents. Fertilome Succulent Potting Mix is a blend of sphagnum peat moss, perlite, and EcoPeat. EcoPeat is a natural wood fiber from peat bogs. When added to Fertilome peat moss, it produces a superior, professional substrate with an exceptional ratio of air porosity and water holding capacity. Fertilome Succulent Potting Mix will ensure maximum drainage with ideal water retention. It's simply the best succulent mix on the market. Ask for Fertilome by name at your local garden center. Available at Daniel's Garden Center, Sumneytown Pike, Harleysville, Pennsylvania. Gasper's Home and Garden, 316 Tanyard Road, Richboro, PA. Your next houseplant is waiting for you in Bloomer's Home and Garden Center's greenhouse. Bloomers recognizes that houseplant choices are as important to your interior decorating as the fabric on your couch. The right plant paired with the perfect container can bring a dynamic change to your home. A houseplant brings life to your world and connects your home's interior to the greater outdoors. Even a small succulent placed on your coffee table has a way of connecting your living room to the Amazon rainforest. How about an air plant in your kitchen? Looking for an indoor flowering plant to add color to your plant palette? Bloomers has a large revolving assortment of flowering beauties. From aglaonemas to ZZ plants, Bloomers Greenhouse is stocked with your next favorite indoor plant. Bloomers carries a large selection of pottery and containers to match your home's decor and make any of your plants more beautiful. Bloomers experts can help you care for your plants and have the fertilizer, insecticides, leaf shine, and specialty soils you need to grow healthy and happy indoor plants. Visit Bloomers Home and Garden Center's greenhouse and make every room in your home a living room. Visit bloomers.com for more information. That's bloomers.com, and we'll see you in the garden.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. As far as the health of plants go, fall is the best time to plant. It's a great time to replace your overgrown landscape.
Whoa.
Yes, here are some tips to follow to make your look like a pro.
That's right.
Yes.
I haven't mentioned my daughter, Melissa and Steve.
I know, in a while.
In a while. Yeah. They are waiting for me to design their landscape, which started in spring.
Wonderful.
Melissa, if you're listening out there, why don't you do it yourself?
Oh, no, Dad. You got to help.
No? All right. Here are some ideas. If I were telling my daughter and my son-in-law of what they need to do, here are some things. First of all, every landscape, every garden, flower garden, it's all about color, texture, and form. For instance, color, like light blue, gray, and go great with burgundy. So like, say, if you're taking a type of blue juniper or you're taking a Picea pungens, glauca or globosa, that's a blue spruce, a dwarf blue spruce, that mixing that with a type of, doesn't matter necessarily what variety except for size, like a barberry, for instance. Those two contrasts look so good together. And the background, if your background is red, you may have an issue if you have a red house, but you have bigger issues if you have a red house. Sorry, not offending anyone. If you have an area where it's shaded and that you still get a little bit of sun, white lightens up dark areas, right? You have quite a bit of shade in your backyard, right?
Yeah, I do, quite a bit.
Yeah.
I have big trees back there.
Yeah, so if you're using some things that, like, for instance, hosta, like in a highly variegated hosta where there's a lot of white to it, where it won't necessarily do as well in full sun because the leaves will burn, but back there
it would work.
It'll do great. Mm-hmm. And also azaleas, like white flowering plants really help bring out the other colors.
Yeah.
And now here's something. We're going to talk about greens.
Oh, gosh.
All right, so have you ever been to art museum?
Yes, I have.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Do they put the paintings on the wall without a frame?
No.
They all have a frame, right?
A frame, yeah.
Green plants in the background are just like that frame that these masterpieces use around them. It helps bring out the colors, the vibrancy of those masterpieces. And that's what green does in the landscape. It helps bring out other colors, and it makes it more dynamic.
It does.
Now, textures, Julio.
Texture is key.
Textures is key. And like you think I'm going to go to like leafy, fine leaf textured plants? No. Large leaf plants like rhododendrons, hydrangeas, all have that big leaf and that texture. It gives it a different texture and it helps bring out other textures. Ferns, for instance, where depending on where they are, that the background plants like a rhododendron would be more of a foundation plant. Most hydrangeas too, but where you have ferns and you have Crimson Queen Japanese maples were very, very leafy and lacy. That's a texture that it's kind of like a show-off plant.
It is.
You know, like we mentioned the large leaf plant.
I call it the wow factor.
The wow factor?
Yes.
There you go. It's got the wow factor. But you also want to make sure that you're using a blend of both deciduous plants and leafy plants.
That's right.
And evergreen plants.
Very good.
Evergreen
It's called
plants.
diversity, too.
That's right. That's the political show on the other side. All right. But what you want to do is make sure that you're using a blend, because if you use all deciduous plants in the winter, it's pretty boring. Yeah, it is. So you need to make sure that you're adding some evergreens. Now, color, texture, form. Pyramidal evergreens are certainly a form. A broad pyramidal shape, softened corners when you're at the corner of the house. Sheared hedges like boxwood or even azaleas or Japanese holly bring a formal look to most landscapes. But again, don't go and just, I have it later on in my notes, no sentries by the door, okay? A pet peeve of mine. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Straight up.
Look.
Sky pencil?
Walk up to the door and there's two guards at the door.
Sky pencil.
Whether it's sky pencil holly or there's two Alberta spruce there,
right there,
you know, that are like,
It's always the case.
it's like just the lowest plant should be by the door. Now, don't design your landscape in sections. We get this all the time. We're going to design by the garage, then we're going to design underneath those windows, and then we're going to design on the other side of the walkway. Right. And each one all of a sudden looks like you're in a townhouse because each landscape is different.
Yeah, I know.
You can't do that.
It's like
you
hodgy-podgy.
Talk what?
It's like hodgy-podgy.
Hodgy-podgy.
That's what I always say.
You got a hodgy-podgy. Well, what advice would you give with somebody that they're trying to do their own landscape?
Yeah,
to avoid doing that.
Yeah, you want unity, so you want it to flow really nice. So things come together well. That's what you don't want to.
But how do you do that?
Like you were saying, colors, texture. You got to start out, with with whatever color they like. Then we got to work with that, or you can take let's say a Japanese maple, like it's burgundy, and then work with that and work your way through it. And put in your evergreens with it, like you're saying,
right?
And put contrast.
But as far as
like
how do you do it so that you don't look like your landscape's done in sections?
Well, you got to make sure that you're not putting it all. You got to blend it all together. It's got to blend,
right?
With your shrubs and perennials,
right?
And you have to put it right. You have to carry it through the whole landscape,
right? So a plant, like say your far corner to, say, the right side of the house at the corner is using, say, liriope underneath a Japanese maple, that you want to pick up that same theme on the other side of the house.
Right.
But if your conditions are different, for instance, if, the other side of the house is in the shade, there are other plants that you can use, but you still want to pick up the burgundy and the grassy look. Like you could use a Japanese forest grass that has that same texture and color as the liriope, but it works because you have a different shade condition compared to the full sun that's on the other side.
Right.
But you want to pick up the color, the texture, the form throughout the whole landscape, and it becomes a theme. And it's important where the garage section, and this drives me crazy. I've got a house across the street, and that house has been there for as long as Bloomers has been open. And if they ever do this, I'm in trouble because I use it as an example all the time. Your landscape does not stop at the garage, okay? Your landscape should stop on the other side of the garage, okay? And that's where your end plant should be, and that you should make sure that you landscape on the other side. Why is that? Because it makes your house look so much bigger. It opens up the whole section. The house that I'm speaking of is across the street. It's like, it looks like, okay, that's the house. The garage door and the corner of the garage, that doesn't count. You only look at that front section. And if they just put one plant on the corner, on the corner of their garage, it would make it look so much better. It would finish that landscape because it looks unfinished. So make sure that you don't stop at the closest part of the garage, that you continue and you do a plant in a small section that's at the corner of the garage where it meets the rest of your lawn.
Right.
Does that understood? Aaron, are you listening?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
All right. And that where, again, it's important. That's just one of those little tips. Don't stop Don't section it out.
Mm-hmm. You know what else I also found that helped? We were actually doing some landscaping shopping at Bloomers a while back, and me and my wife were making the mistake of shopping according to what was on sale. And instead of shopping for what was on sale, buying things according to the different types of growing areas in the house and the light and sunlight and everything. And then not only that, Julio gave us some good advice. He buys things at 3 or 4 at a time.
Yeah.
And uses that and sprinkles it according to his landscaping taste. So that was pretty good advice. Thank you, man.
And that's a good point. You don't have to do your landscape all in one weekend.
1 week, yeah.
Everybody, don't want to offend you, okay? I had a customer that has probably, nice house. And, all right, I'm a businessman, okay?
Right.
But I'm a horticulturist. And these two crashed together when a woman who owned a $400,000 house, well, I said almost $2,000 on my landscape.
Ooh.
Peanuts.
That's right.
Peanuts.
That's nothing.
Your landscape should be 10% of the cost of your house. So she's about $38,000 undervalued.
Oh my gosh.
Now, what's the other benefit? Landscaping, you get $1.50 for every dollar you put into your landscape.
Wow.
As far as value to your home.
Great value.
And again, check your local tax laws, okay, for your state. It's a capital improvement. Capital improvements are deductible. Check with your tax advisor.
There you go.
Okay. We are not tax people. We just pretend we are on the radio. All right, so let's see. Another tricks of the trade. Blend shrubbery with perennials. Perennials are like an old friend. Like they do die back to the ground, but then they come up the following year.
Yeah, wonderful.
And we always talk about your daylilies. You're like a kid in the candy store when your daylilies would start to bloom each spring.
Oh,
now that you ripped it out, you're a boring old man.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, well, anyway. So what you want to do is make sure that you're mixing perennials with your shrubbery. They're not going to necessarily take the place of a foundation plant, but they are going to pick up textures that you get from other shrubs. So, and that most of the time, again, color, texture, form, pick out the perennials the same way you do your shrubs. All right. Tallest things on the corners.
Yes. Not those century.
They can go on the corners. They just can't go by the door, the centuries. Right. Tallest things on the corners, shortest things by the entry. The whole idea is that you want to accentuate the entrance of your home. So tallest things on the corners, shortest things where you enter into the house. Your eye naturally has a progression that where it will look at those tallest things and it funnels your eye right to your front door. And that's what you want. That's what you want. And again, you can use trees on the corner if you want, but they've got to be smaller trees. Don't go putting in a shade tree like, God forbid, we just recently sold a lot of weeping willows. I just hope to God nobody puts them by the corner of their house.
No, I don't.
So, again, and on that corner of your house, do not plant them in front of the house. Put them at a 45-degree angle away from that corner. So that corner of your house is pointing in the direction. So you take it away from your house. And again, this is another trick where it extends the size of your house.
It's bigger, huh?
Because it's going to be, say the tree gets to be 20 foot across. So you're taking it 10 foot out from the corner of your house, but not in front. You're not going to make a right angle. You're taking it out of 45 and placing it off to the side. Then you take a smaller, medium-sized foundation plant and put it in between the gap to soften that corner of the house. And as the tree grows, it will also do that. Like Japanese maples are a perfect example. Again, great plant, respects its size, doesn't get ginormous, and that where you go and you put a plant that would be in that other spot, like a Hinoki cypress or something that is more, not irregular, but not something that has a defined shape. Like you don't want to do a pyramid, like a God forbid, an emerald green arborvitae there.
Yeah.
Ugh.
That would ruin it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, plant that corner plant. And that corner plant, I use the term, it's a hinge plant. It's the plant that is the hinge to your front landscape, but also to the landscape on the side of your house. Very important. Very important. Plant it at a 45. Don't try to put it in front of the house. It's going to be moved, again, towards the front of the landscape, but it's going to be out at a 45-degree angle. And that it will work and it will look great, because too often I see plants where they are trying to put it in front of the corner and it's straight out in front of the plant and straight out in front of the house, and it overtakes windows and it just doesn't belong. So again, at a 45-degree angle from the corner of the house. If you go shopping for landscape plants, Julio, I know this is a pet peeve of yours. And I buy a plant that's going to get 5 feet across, but I'm buying it today where it's only about 18 inches across.
Right.
Where should I plant it?
Oh my goodness! You better make sure you got spades.
And that's what Julio said. You plant it designed at the size the plant will become, not the size of the plant that it is when you get it. Right. Okay, plants grow.
That's a major concern for us. I mean, from when I see somebody picking up a plant that's going to grow, 15 feet wide, and they think they're going to be able to put it in a 4-foot section.
I'll just shear it.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's sometimes you just, all right, you're going to be shearing it every day.
Yeah.
It's right. Like,
I'll cut it every day.
And you got to pay attention. And you got to ask questions too. Garden centers are the best resources for having a great landscape. You got to ask these questions, how big does it get? What's it going to grow? And I love when, like, we have dwarf conifers. A dwarf conifer is an evergreen that takes a long time to grow and doesn't get very big. Okay. And they're always expensive. And why are they expensive? Because a farmer has to put his life into growing this plant. And it may take, like, say, years. You go and you look at a forsythia or arborvitae, it grows in no time. Fast. But where you have a dwarf conifer that's 10 years old and it's $80, I'm not buying that.
That's too much.
But it doesn't require any maintenance because it grows painfully slow. And that's the idea, but it brings you texture into it. But then here's the problem. How big does this get?
I know.
And the question is, in whose lifetime?
You're not going to see it.
I mean, the lifetime of the plant, it can get 20 feet, but it'll be 100 years old.
That's right. You might not make it.
It'll be worth $20,000.
Wow. Nice.
But again, it's you got to ask, like, in 10 years, how big will this get? And if something grows, 6 inches a year, in 20 years, it's going to be 10 foot, but then you can shear it. But 20 years, how old are you? I'm not going to be here in 20 years. I don't think so.
You're moving. Right?
If I am, you'll have to take my dead hands off of this mic.
That's right.
But it's how big does this get is not the question. How fast does this grow? And how big will it get in 10 years? And again, that things can be slowed down with shearing, but like a Japanese maple, it can get to be pretty big, but it takes a long time. It takes a long time. And all of those dwarf conifers are great plants, but they grow slow. Don't chase the shiny object. Okay? Too much color. Oh, no, I'm going to lose all of our audience, Julio.
I know you are.
All right, so we're near South Philly. I want those golden euonymus plants, and I want to know if they bloom.
Right.
Julio knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, my goodness.
There couldn't be more of a loud, obnoxious plant than a golden euonymus. Oh. And it's attractive. It's nice.
Yeah,
but don't make your whole landscape that.
The whole thing.
It's such a distraction because all of you see is these yellow plants. And you got to ask some questions like, does it get any insects or diseases? And the answer to golden euonymus is like, yeah.
They do.
Yeah, euonymus scale. Have you ever seen a big one? No, because nobody sprays them. And they need to be sprayed with a systemic insecticide. But it's the shiny object. I mean, it's gaudy.
It is.
And sometimes it should be put not near the door, not near that. It should be put somewhere else.
In the back.
Towards the, maybe that should be the plant that is the first plant on the side yard, not in the front of the landscape.
Yeah.
But again, it has its place. But boy, oh boy, we sell a lot of them, and I just
They're still asking for them.
But they do, and it's like we don't sell as many of them, but they used to ask for Globe Arborvitae.
Oh,
Got any globals?
yeah.
Got any globals? Globe Arborvitae grow 4 foot tall, and they look like giant green meatballs.
It's right.
It's got a texture, it's got a color, but the form, it looks like a pod landed.
It does. It does.
And what happens is people would use them. I'm going to put them all underneath my bay window.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not a good idea.
No.
Color, texture, form, and blend it. Like Julio was saying, you don't want to have just if it's going to be something like that, where you put something under the bay window, make it into a formal hedge. Right. You're going to have to do some landscape, but it'll be nice. Mm-hmm. But too often people are trying to get. I want something variegated that blooms and that has a great fall. There's just you're trying to ask too much of the plant. You can get that gaudiness and that color. Get it from planting annuals, and plant annuals in bedding plants. And that'll give you that big, shiny blast of color rather than trying to get it out of your landscape plants.
And make your beds big, please.
No.
Don't make it hard on yourself and just, make it a 3-foot section.
You do. And here's another tip. You get more color from leaf color, like we were just saying, but I'm not looking for gold. Like, for instance, if you do use coral bells like heuchera, you get great color. You get burgundies, like the burgundy that we were talking about from a barberry, from other barberries. There's like a chartreuse barberry. There's golden barberry where it's not golden. It's more of like a chartreuse green. Foliage color from just like globe blue spruce. You get that. It's a great plant. And one thing, and don't use stone for your mulch.
Oh, no.
Please. Jenny, I'm talking to you.
Good thing she took it out.
She did. Only use stone in a couple of areas. Like I like 3-inch river jacks at the downspouts that will slow that water down so it doesn't wash things out. Use boulders in your landscape. Just not in the way of your landscape, but as a help to just give it a little bit of character. Mm-hmm. Express yourself. Right? We ran that song last week. Concrete statues, maybe give a little bit of your own style. Mm-hmm. And don't be afraid to plant something. Get out there, talk to your local garden center. They want to help you. They want to help you do a good landscape. Why? Because your friends are going to see how beautiful your landscape is, and they're going to get new customers because of it.
Right. You're the individual of your home. Don't look at your neighbor and want the same things, because you're all going to look alike.
Yeah. Rubber stamp. Anyway, get out there, talk to your local garden center, ask them for help, and you'll have the best looking landscape in the neighborhood. That's one of our sponsors. All right. We'll be back in the garden right after this. Some of our most frequent questions revolve around organic container gardening for houseplants, annuals, and, of course, vegetables. Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor Blend Organic Potting Soil is a lightweight soil mixture made with salmon, blueberry, lobster, and other composts, as well as calcium and chitin-rich lobster shells, sphagnum peat, perlite, and kelp meal. It is a great soil. And Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor Organic Potting Soil is rich in organic material, creating lush, disease-resistant plants that require less watering, less feeding. Its rich, dark brown color provides the perfect balance between water retention and drainage needed for healthy plants. Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor Blend Organic Potting Soil is available at these local retailers.
Sickles Market, Little River, New Jersey. Espen Shades Garden Centers and Greenhouse, Fleetwood, Pennsylvania. Pickering Valley Feed and Farm, Exton, Pennsylvania. Dreaming of a gorgeous garden? Give your azaleas, rhododendron, blueberries, and evergreens a powerful boost with their #1 acid-loving plant food, Espoma Organic Hollytone. Hollytone is a perfect blend of natural, long-lasting ingredients that nourish plants for stronger roots, faster growth, and bountiful blooms. Plus, it's easy to use and safe for people, pets, and planet. Visit espoma.com for a retailer near you and helpful gardening tips. Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929.
Are you looking to reach an audience of over 12 million residents in the Philadelphia, Delaware Valley, and New York City Tri-State? Then consider becoming a broadcast sponsorship partner for Bloomers in the Garden. Every week on Bloomers in the Garden Radio, your products become associated with the authority in everything lawn, landscape, and garden. For more information on the Bloomers in the Garden Partnership Program, feel free to call the hotline 609-685-1880 or check out the radio tab at bloomers.com.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. So why is fall for planting? Here you go. We're running out of time. Benefit of 2 natural rainy seasons, fall and spring. So you don't have to sit there with your hose all summer long watering, but you still have to water them during the summer, but they'll become established by the time we get there. Plants put on the most root development in fall. Nurseries like Bloomers is having sales.
Tons.
Don't expect everything 50% off, but many things, especially those high-end fancy plants, are discounted.
Best place to go.
Sometimes the plants look like they're going dormant, but check the buds. Those buds are next year's growth. So you'll see fall color in person. So when you see a tag and you say, oh, it says it gets berries. In the spring, you don't know what those berries look like. Now you do. Now you do. And most important, it's cooler to work outside in the fall.
The best.
Because fall is a cool time of year.
It is cool.
We'll be back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Welcome back to Bloomers. It's the end of a show, Julio.
Incredible.
Hey, if you've got questions, call the hotline, 609-685-1880. We will be back with you next week in the garden on the same station, same time, same place. See you in the garden.
See you in the garden.